You're listening to the Bird Dog Babe podcast with my mom, Courtney Bastion.
The state game and fish agencies, they are hyper managing, these numbers, and, hunters with our hunter dollars paying these game and fish agencies to also do habitat conservation, to keep hunting a part of it is also really important, because we keep this passion and this energy around the conservation of this bird. And if we can hunt these birds, we are going to advocate for its conservation so we can continue to do.
Hey bird dog babes, my name is Courtney Bastion and I am obsessed with all things bird dogs. And I'm here with you to share the stories, experiences, knowledge, and opinions from the women and a few guys in the industry that are killing it. I'm a Wisconsin girl living in a Montana world. I'm mom and two incredible kiddos, wife and occasional assistant to a pro gun dog trainer, traveling the U.S. talking about canine nutrition while hunting, breeding, and competing with my German Wirehaired pointers and Bracco Italianos. As someone who started hunting later in life because I wanted to give my dogs the opportunity to do what they were bred to do, I'm here to help inspire, educate, and connect women to get their bird dogs out in the field and experience a bond like no other. So pour yourself a glass of wine and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Bird Dog Babe podcast. On Thursday, September 10th, one of my mentors, a third-generation breeder that has helped me evaluate our German Wirehaired pointer litters for the past 11 years, is going to join me live to evaluate our litter of 4 puppies that will be 8 weeks old. The dam is a NAVHDA Versatile Champion, AKC Dual Champion, Group Placing, Master Hunter Advanced, and the sire is from a new line we imported, Semenon. We're going to go over every piece of structure on these puppies and explain the role and importance that piece plays in the function of a bird dog. This is going to be a great learning opportunity and will better help you evaluate your future litter or puppy. This is exclusive to my Patreon patrons, so if you're interested in attending this event, sign up at patreon.com/thebirddogbabe. It's a whopping $5 to get connected, which inadvertently opens up more exclusive discounts and content available to my patrons. So mountain grouse season opens tomorrow in Montana, and I'm recording this super late on Monday night. Nope, it's definitely early Tuesday morning now that I've looked at the clock. So Montana also opens up snipe, dove, partridge, sage grouse, sharp-tailed grouse, and turkeys. But since we all know turkeys are dicks, I won't be wasting my time with them until next week. However, I think it's time for another giveaway. And well, opening season is worth celebrating. So do something this week that contributes to the podcast. Write a review, because hey, if you listen to this podcast and you haven't already submitted a review, it's about time you do, and I would sincerely appreciate it. Tag a friend and share your favorite episode with a friend that you think would value from it. Or send me a guest or topic suggestion. All easy ways to contribute, and I will choose one of you and send you a free t-shirt and super cool sticker. My guest on this episode is pretty much one of the coolest girls I've ever met. You know, the type that you love to squeeze information and gain advice from. And, of course, chase birds with. It helps that her bird dogs are pretty awesome, too. Hannah Nikonow is the communications specialist for the Intermountain West joint venture. Her career is centered around sagebrush habitat, which, of course, is where we find sage grouse and other sagebrush obligate species. Tune in to hear about a virtual seminar Hannah and I recently recorded for Backcountry hunters and anglers, how Hannah saved the day at our women's hunting event a few weeks ago, and our upcoming Girls Grouse Camp, her story as a adult onset hunter, her passion in her work, and of course, her awesome bird dogs. All right, let's get after it. Thank you to sponsor Dakota 283, unparalleled protection for traveling to and from your favorite hunting spot. Dakota 283 kennels are a premium quality roto-mold with recessed handles on top for convenient and safe tie-down, and makes it easy to lift up into the truck. I love the secure door frame with high security locks, so I know my dogs are safe when I need to stop for fuel. An added bonus is the drain hole in the back, which makes cleaning a breeze when your dog has been run hard and put away wet. Head over to Dakota283.com and use promo code BirdDogBabe for a 10% discount. Thanks to sponsor Excel Shooting Sports, elite dealer of Cesar Guarini, Fab Arm, and Siren shotguns. Siren is the world's only full line of shotguns created for the female competitor, hunter, and shotgun enthusiast. Excel is one of only 4 demo centers west of the Mississippi. They give you the opportunity to actually try out a gun before you walk out the door with it. As an elite dealer for Cesar Guarini, Excel offers their customers unlimited pit stops of free service and tune-ups on all shotguns, a great way to have your gun in top condition for the upcoming hunting or target season. In addition, they're offering an exclusive deal to all of the Bird Dog Babe listeners for a free gun slip with each purchase, a $90 value.
Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Courtney.
This is a very unique experience. Hannah is right here in front of me. She is like almost up there with the importance of my husband in my closet, except for we are right outside of the closet.
Very close to it.
Very close to it. It's very, like if we were in the closet today, it would be steaming hot.
Toasty.
Yeah, very much. It's already warm enough in here. So Hannah and I just finished recording a virtual course for BHA, which stands for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. Hannah, can you touch a little bit more on what we just did and what it's for?
Yeah, so Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, the #1 organization fighting for our public lands, keeping public lands in public hands. Their headquarters is in Missoula, where I live, and so they are a fantastic hunting advocacy organization, hunting and fishing advocacy public lands organization, and, their whole world has been turned upside down because we can't do the events and the awesome in-person things this time of year with COVID, and so they are pivoting, they're innovating, and they are doing this virtual seminar series where they are bringing in their members to talk about just awesome skills that their members can provide to other people in the areas of hunting and fishing. And so they asked the Montana chapter to contribute a seminar, one of the virtual events, and I piped up and volunteered to do a piece on adult onset upland bird hunting. And then, of course, I never want to be in front of a camera by myself, so I tapped my good friend Courtney.
Yeah, it was really fun to do. We kind of did a riff of the Between Two Ferns, and we did 2 babes between bird dogs.
Yes, we got some of Courtney's beautiful dogs right out, and had them sit next to us, and it'll be a pretty fun visual.
Yeah, they were in there for a short minute because there's this whole they're clicker trained to sit and behave right, and that didn't really work out. They were there for a minute. We got a lot of girls this season around here, so there was no attention span whatsoever. But it was really good effort. Hannah, so you're in the Montana BHA, you're a lifetime member. What do you do in the Montana chapter? Do you hold a position there?
So I've been a member of BHA for a number of years and kind of stumbled upon them. I found their journal, Backcountry Journal, and wanted to contribute a story to it, and kind of then started to learn about this group. And the Montana chapter has been around for quite a while, but when I kind of was volunteering with them probably 6 or 7 years ago now, they needed to build a board and figure out a structure. And so I started volunteering, and eventually they made me a board member. And I was a board member for 6 years until the end of 2019. In December, I stepped down, and just to let some new energy and new folks come in and figure it out. But I'm still on quite a few of the emails. So I love getting hit up by the chapter to do various projects. We're organizing a fishing access site cleanup later in September, probably on Public Lands Day, and I've been involved, so I love just it's hard to say no because it's an organization I believe in so wholeheartedly.
Right, and they've had some major success in the last couple of weeks. I mean, the Great American Outdoor Act do you want to touch on that a little bit? Because I know when I was kind of getting emails from BHA and making the phone calls, and I had to do some research on really what it all meant, and that it was just signed in by President Trump. So
yeah, that was such a huge win, and something that, I have been working on, specifically the Land and Water Conservation Fund, which was a huge portion of the Great American Outdoors Act. When I first joined BHA, they sent me to Washington, D.C. to meet with the Montana delegation there to advocate for LWCF and to talk about how important what LWCF is for hunters and anglers, for public land recreators, for just the general person, who doesn't own a beautiful estate, for us to be able to go out and hunt our public lands, and that the Land and Water Conservation Fund helps fund 70% of fishing access sites in Montana, as well as land acquisition, and to be involved, like in my early days with BHA, advocating for that, and to see it to come to fruition in the past month is incredible. And people talk about being able to be a part of that and seeing it through. This is legacy career conservation success to see that signed into law. It gives me kind of tingles that we were able to achieve that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think for a plug for BHA, I mean, if for those of us that are out there hunting public land, support these organizations that are pushing for us to have that right. And same as the Pheasants Forever, Ruffed Grouse Society, if you are out there hunting these species, support those organizations that are working towards that conservation, preservation, all the education, habitat, because that's what's making us able to do it. And I, in a very selfish way, want my children and their children to be able to have these accesses and bird species to hunt as well. So please go forward and join these memberships, especially in these organizations that are all, like Hannah mentioned, not able to hold their banquets, their pint nights, all the fun stuff because of what's going on, because they need us to help them now because they've been helping us so much. So let's give back. I also wanted to add in, last weekend at our women's event, I got to tell everybody what Hannah did because she was amazing. So I had lost my mojo a little bit with the event because we were supposed to be bringing in a chef, and with the COVID stuff, that didn't work out. And we were about ready to cancel the event because I said, what these women are paying to come in and do this, I don't feel right not having somebody there to do what we promised them was going to be done. And we had Hannah over one night for dinner and her husband. And she's like, well, how about I do it? And this Hannah, I don't know her very well yet, but she's pretty amazing. And I'm like, well, what do you know? How do you know what to do? And sure enough, you went above and beyond what I could have even asked for or imagined. I mean, you had almost every woman there standing up in our chairs looking at what you were doing because you were so in tune to how to prepare those pheasant and chucker. How did you learn that?
Trial and error, you definitely like put some trust in me saying like, I'll cook for you gals. And, and you said yes. And so thank you for that, like, trust. Of course. And, just learning how to cook wild game well is something my husband and I really enjoy and explore. And, if we're gonna pull a trigger and take an animal's life, we will eat it. When we shoot a coyote, we will make dogs. We will make coyote hot dogs out of them. Oh. And, we try to consume as much of the animal as possible. And just that experimentation has been really fun. I did grow up in a hunting family. My dad is a big game hunter as well as waterfowler. I never hunted upland until I was an adult. But, he cooked well. But I think the level of intention and experimentation that my husband and I have put into it has been really fun. And so being able to, you know, there's a quote somewhere, cooking is an act of love. And, you know, being able to cook for other people and have them appreciate what I've made is so valuable. And kind of at that event, I had some pre-made appetizers. We had a little street taco with some mule deer shank, and we had egg rolls with some sweet duck. So those were mallards that we got in the past year. It was also a great way to clean out my freezer because the season's coming and I got to make some space.
No, it was absolutely amazing. We loved it. So you just touched a little bit about how you kind of got started in hunting. So how old were you when you started going?
I was thinking about this, and I had to ask my dad a couple of years ago, like, when was the first time I went hunting? He's like, well, you were an infant, and your mom had to do something, so we went out across, he was coyote hunting, and I was... he's probably 6-month-old. I was stuffed in his coat, and his truck broke down. So he had someone have to pick him up while he was out somewhere in the Dakota blizzard, after looking for some coyotes. And somebody picked him up, and he unzipped his coat, and I was like screaming inside his coat. And so I think that was my first hunting experience.
That's awesome.
But, you know, I started carrying a rifle at 12, and I took my first antelope at 12. Wow. Most people would say they've been hunting ever since, but I decided when I was 16, I was going to be a vegetarian. And it was part of rejecting everything my dad loved. Sure. And I quit eating meat for a long time. And kind of I lost between like 16 and 22, I kind of lost that connection with food and family and just kind of like what my dad lived for. And but I eventually came around to it, kind of him beating in my head that, you know, the wild game that we eat is the most organic, sanely harvested protein that you can put in your body. And so I came back to it, you know, kind of late in college, and full circle, it's my complete lifestyle now.
Right. So did you get back into it with your husband?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. He hunted through college, kind of mostly subsistence hunting to feed himself through college. I started getting back into it, and also like bird dogs really also drew me back into it. Okay. Just, I grew up with German wirehairs.
Did you really?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Backwoods, not a reputable breeder, German wirehairs, but, you know, I love that beard and I'm never going to leave it. Yeah. We had those dogs for waterfowling, and I tried to bring one of those dogs to college with me, but the other dog back home stopped eating because his buddy left. Sure. So had to bring her back home, and so I was like, all right, bird dogs, the next couple years I got to figure out, you know, the lifestyle. I have to have a rental that can have bird dogs to make that a part of my life again.
Right. Yeah, isn't that funny? That's a process, because we got our first wire here when we were in college too, and we had to live 25 minutes away because that's where we could find a place that allowed us to have a dog. Yeah. It was crazy. So did you go bird hunting when you were younger too, when you were 12 then?
Not
the
really.
Hairs? Okay.
Dad was very much kind of big game first and then waterfowl later in the season. So I would tag along, but I wasn't doing a ton of wing shooting or kind of blind layouts with him. A little bit, but not much. The bird hunting really didn't come until I was out of the house, and my boss at the Intermountain West Joint Venture, he's a big pheasant upland hunter, and so he invited me along. So for the first season, I followed him and his Flushing lab across the rough Missouri River country in eastern Montana. And by the end of that first season, I was like, I need my own dog.
So, and your own dog is a wire-haired pointing Griffon that is 7 years old now. Yep. Right. Mm-hmm. So what made you decide of all the different pointing breeds of why why a pointer first? Mm-hmm. If your experience was with a Flushing dog, and then why the Griffon?
Yeah, pointing dogs, I loved the style and the pizzazz and, that potentially couple of extra seconds more to get up on a bird, and just like big ranging dogs. I like hiking and kind of exploring, just something that will go out and be independent of me, independent but in collaboration with me, versus, that bootlicker, that dog that's going to stick right at my heel. I love kind of that dog has the drive to go see what else is happening.
Right.
And so, I love the German Wirehairs, and I wanted something close to that, but living in Missoula in western Montana, one of the, a fairly urban area, I live in town, there was a little bit of that, that potential sharpness in a German Wirehair I wasn't confident in managing that. And, the Griff is fairly close, but known to be a little bit of a softer personality. And especially for my first hunting dog, I was looking for that as well.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry explaining to neighbors that your dog just killed their cat, right?
Except he almost has done that before. No, it doesn't always work out how you wanted it to.
I think the versatile breeds in general, like, you're just getting into it. So be prepared.
Yep. Anything can happen.
I mean, I've never heard of a Labrador or a Golden Retriever doing that, though.
No. No, me neither.
A little bit more grit in these versatile dogs, I suppose.
Yep.
I love it. So, and now you have a Pudelpointer, Bannock, and he's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's almost 9 months.
Okay. And so what made you decide on going from a Griffon to a Pudelpointer as your second dog?
Yeah, so I really wanted to get a second dog in the arsenal. I had this experience last season sitting out somewhere remote and wonderful in eastern Montana, and, just having put 3 almost full days on myself and my Griff, he was toasted. He was tired, his paws were beat up, he tangled with a wire fence and had a good little cut on him, and I just, I had the drive to keep going. He had the drive to keep going, but I needed to give his body a rest. And so, getting that extra dog in the arsenal was like my next big step in, the bird dog world. And so we started I had been looking around thinking about this for a while, and our Griff, he waterfowl hunts, especially that early season. He is, he's totally game to pound out there. Getting later in the season, he will do it, but he doesn't love to pound that cold water and sit in that cold blind. And so we were looking for something with a little bit more we wanted a versatile dog, had to have a beard, my stipulations on vanity and appearance, because I love it.
Yes.
But wanted something a little more waterfowl oriented, but still could, chase pheasant and sharptail and sage grouse and those other upland species, but maybe had a little bit more water love and drive. And I think we got that with Bannock.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and his coat too is totally built for waterfowl hunting.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do amazing when you have later season hunting, as far as keeping up, weather-wise, and how coarse his coat is. Yeah. So it's really cool. But yeah, he's got a lot of grit. He's got a lot of get up and go. I'm excited to hunt over him personally.
Yeah, and it's been interesting, getting into, I've met and hunted over a few Pudelpointers, but there's quite a bit of variation around them, like some with a little bit longer coat, and his coat is very tight, and I'll be interested to see as he grows how that develops and changes a little, but it's pretty dreamy right now.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Yeah. And you you train with the NAVHDA organization. When you started with the Griffon, is that something you did right away after you got him?
Yeah, one of our stipulations, which I was super glad that our breeder, Rise breeder, pushed us into that, is he required that we at least go through natural ability with Rye. And, that was amazing because of the people I met, just understanding there's this foundation. I also got to watch some dogs when I was doing natural ability and working with that group. I got to watch some dogs do the utility test, and I was like, whoa, that is next level. I don't even know that if that's in my pipeline. Yeah. And now that we've done natural ability with Bannock, we're like, maybe we'll get there.
Yeah, it is. And I think just seeing the difference, like you said, and, out hunting and working with a dog that I've hunted over a couple dogs that have had zero formal training, and yeah, they're out there finding birds. They're getting it done. But to be able to hunt with a dog that has that fully trained, completely finished gun dog work ethic, because they've had all that, the promise behind them, they have the genetics behind them, and to be able to funnel that and have that kind of a hunting experience. I mean, Lord, gosh, I'm goosebumping all day talking about this stuff, but it's just, it's a totally different experience of hunting when you're working with that level of a dog, and the fact that there's so much promise in Bannock. It's very exciting to see that. When you started with NAVHDA, when your breeder told you that, was it you have to do it or they would like you to do it? What was it?
I think it was, we very, very highly recommend that you do natural ability with your dog.
Okay.
And they were saying for the dog, for the breeder's understanding of that, kind of what that dog has received as far as like the genetics and the natural juju, and then but also for like us as the dog owners, what it looks like. Yeah.
How did you feel when you were you familiar with the NAVHDA organization at all before that conversation with your breeder?
Not at all.
Were you offset a little bit of, I don't really want to do this, or what was your first feeling?
It was interesting just, being a first-time dog owner, not just something, I had growing up. Being a first-time dog owner, that relationship, kind of being asked to do something after. I've I paid for the dog and, going home. But I think that was really important that, that our breeder had expectations for us to follow through to make sure that we were doing the best thing for that dog. So it was unique, but also I think that breeder asking for us to do that, they invested in us kind of time-wise. I don't know how many calls poor John Arkins received being like, oh my gosh, this just happened. What do I do? And him and his, wonderful wife, Jamie, to talk me through it and, take those panic calls. And also for them to take a little bit of a risk with me as a first-time bird dog owner, trainer, hunter. Yeah. Because, I know there were other puppy buyers that were interested. Rye came out of a four dog litter. So, he saw something in me that he let me take Rye home and kind of start this whole journey.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I'm always intrigued to know what people think and what people feel of starting that, and the fact that when you got involved with it, you not only stuck through it, but you didn't even hesitate to get a second dog to do exactly that. And now you're active in the chapter and volunteering, and so I think that's awesome, and that's what the organization is for. So bird hunting. So you've been bird hunting. So you started with Rye, so 7 years. What kind of birds have you all hunted so far?
We haven't traveled too far for birds. We've stuck to Montana and Wyoming, but we've pretty much hunted everything but quail and chukar. Okay. So, in Montana, we're in the eastern portion of the states. We spend a lot of time on our forest grouse species, which 10 days till the hunting season opens up. We are so ready. We got our spots. So it's going to be a blast. And then we'll do a couple of trips out east for pheasant and sharptail and sage grouse.
And huns.
Yes. Pheasant is something that kind of early on, that's what I really focused on with Rye. So he's super good at that. He kind of knows what he's smelling, but I'm a bit more into the prairie birds right now, and just the sharptail and the sage grouse and the huns, and I love that ecosystem, and so that's what we're going to hit pretty hard this year. Yeah.
So let's hop into a little bit about, because I know what your favorite bird is. We just had this conversation, didn't we? So you are sagebrush guru girl. So if anybody has sagebrush questions, which is the habitat for sage grouse, right?
Correct.
Goes hand in hand. Go to Hannah for it. And what we did in her segment of this virtual course was talking about the habitat and how important it is to be able to not only identify it, but things that we can do to ensure this habitat can hold these birds that are lessening in number. So talk to us a little bit, Hannah, about the sagebrush habitat in general.
Yeah, so sagebrush is such a unique plant. It's a shrub. It's so unique to the American West. And it covers, the majority of the western states. And it is a habitat that does have a number of threats facing it. So I love to describe the sagebrush sea as the rainforest, but in miniature. It's this miniature dry land rainforest because of the diversity of species that depend on this ecosystem. So you have, all the big game, you've got the small game, you've got the birds, you've got the lizards, and it's such a diverse landscape, so unique to North America. But it has a number of threats facing it, which kind of in my day job as a sagebrush communications specialist, I talk a lot about the value of this ecosystem. And kind of the three conservation threats that face the system that I work on include wildfire and invasive annual grasses, conifer expansion, and wet meadow degradation. So kind of like, the sage grouse, they are 100% dependent on this ecosystem. If we don't have sagebrush, we don't have sage grouse. Mm-hmm. There are many other species that are dependent on it, but they talk about there are sagebrush obligates and there are sagebrush dependents. Dependents need sagebrush for some portion of their life cycle, but obligates do not live without that plant. And so sage grouse are unique in that they're one of the few species. There are a couple that do eat sagebrush, but in the spring and the summer they're eating the grasses and the bugs. But when you get into the fall, when you've often got that snow cover, they are purely eating sagebrush leaves, which to some critters it's toxic. Sagebrush, their guts can't process it, but sage grouse have a unique digestive system in where they can actually consume sagebrush.
Wow. So what else is all an obligate of sagebrush, besides the sage grouse?
Yeah, there are a number of migratory bird species. So there's the sagebrush sparrow, there's the brewer sparrow, there's the sage thrasher. So I call them the LVBs, the little brown birds of the sagebrush sea. Uh-huh. So there are a number of birds. There are some smaller game, but kind of big game. Mule deer utilize the sagebrush extensively, as do the antelope. Okay. Sagebrush is often wintering. Lower elevation sagebrush is often wintering ground for sagebrush, for elk, definitely for pronghorn. So those are some pretty big iconic species of the sagebrush system.
Right. Where is sagebrush all located? Like throughout the U.S., and we know obviously it's here in Montana. Where else is it?
Yeah, so Wyoming is the mecca for sagebrush. It also has the highest population of sage grouse. You have it in parts, like a few little parts of North and South Dakota. Colorado also has it. Colorado also has a very unique sagebrush grouse species, which is the Gunnison sage grouse. They're genetically different. Got it across a lot of northern Utah. In Nevada. Nevada, is an extensive sagebrush state as well. Going up to Oregon has quite a bit of sagebrush in the eastern portion of the range, as does Washington. Lots of southern Idaho has sagebrush, so it kind of paints that whole big swatch. There is sagebrush in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, and Arizona, but they do not have sage grouse there.
Okay. So what is the biggest endangerment to sagebrush?
The number one threat to sagebrush is invasive annual grasses and the wildfire that fuels these invasive annual grasses, which fuel wildfires. Okay. So right now we have a lot of cheatgrass, Medusa head ventinata. Those are three types of invasive annual grasses. Those are kind of the big three, but the number one poster child that I spend my day in and day out fighting is cheatgrass. So it's also called downy brome. It's not native to the United States, and it loves disturbance. So you see it along trails, along roads, along interstates. It came over into the U.S. as for a variety of reasons. It was often like packaging material on ships. It was feed at some point. The seed was actually in seed mixes that we spread across our country until we didn't realize kind of its invasive nature, and how, because it is not a native, it is very good about outcompeting our native plant species. And so it springs up really early in the spring. And at that point, it does have valuable forage qualities to it. So like the cows and the critters will eat it when it's very young and very green, but it cures out quickly. Grows up green, it turns purple as it starts curing out, and then turns into this like dusty, dry tan. And as you walk through it, it sticks in your socks like nothing else.
Or in your dogs.
Yeah. And it's incredibly damaging to dogs. Like if it gets in their ears, if it gets in their nose and their eyes, their paws in particular, it burrows in. So you had one of the vets that you had on your podcast earlier, you know, she was sitting there talking about it and pulled a piece out of her dog's foot. Yeah. And it's like, I am checking my dogs all the time. Living in Missoula, it's a fairly wet area in comparison to the rest of the Intermountain West, but we have cheatgrass there that I haven't seen, and our vet, Dr. Trevor Ferguson, has said he's getting dogs in his clinic every day that are having these cheatgrass problems, and it can I've heard of dogs losing paws or it migrating into a lung, and it is a nasty thing. And so because it dries out so fast, because it outcompetes native plants, is, you know, if one spark happens with a trailer dragging a chain creates a spark, or if somebody is target shooting in dry grass, or, you know, I've even heard of a mountain biker trying to burn his toilet paper and lighting up a big old cheatgrass fire. And, you know, sagebrush is so unique, and it takes, you know, 25, 50, 100 plus years to mature. For it to come back after sagebrush has burned. It cannot compete with the cheatgrass, and it's just really hard to get those habitats to recover.
How long ago did cheatgrass come over here?
It was coming, I can look up the exact date for you, but Aldo Leopold, in, you know, his famous Sand County Almanac, he's talking about cheatgrass as this plague in the West. So it was already established before he wrote that book. And so it's been around for a while, but just as, you know, we've become so mobile, it is just expanding. The Great Basin, which is like Nevada, California, that, you know, that corner of Oregon, southern Idaho, and northern Utah, that's considered the Great Basin. Yeah. They have it in extreme amounts. And, you know, the Martin Fire was the biggest fire in Nevada, and it burned 435,000 acres in 4 days. Holy cow. It was started by some kids playing around with fireworks. Probably. Never actually identified. But it, you know, and, you know, I went out to that country, and it's going to be really hard for some of those places to recover. They are getting good recovery, but we see what's happening in the Great Basin and in the Rocky Mountain, in the wetter states that have higher resilience and resistance because of our moisture regime. You know, we have a little bit more moisture that can help our ecosystems out, but it's coming in here, and we need to be proactive about fighting it back.
Right. So did around that time, I mean, have you seen or know of the sage grouse population starting to kind of go hand in hand with lowering as the amount of cheatgrass is rising?
Yeah, there are a number of kind of causes for sage grouse populations decline. You know, all of them are anthropogenic, caused by humans. Okay. And so kind of as cheatgrass has grown in, and these invasive annual grasses are, you know, getting spread throughout our sagebrush system, that is a major decline. But there's also conifer expansion is a big one. So particularly we're talking a lot about juniper, and juniper, which previously, you know, is a fire dependent conifer species. You know, the wildfires were happening in natural cycles and keeping the juniper at bay. But now that we humans have gotten so good at putting out, you know, forest fires, you know, that those conifers have expanded into sagebrush country, and sage grouse are predated upon by hawks and falcons and other raptors, and so those conifers provide a really good perch for those raptors to eat sage grouse. So that's a big reason for sage grouse decline as well. And then there's also these wet meadows out in sagebrush. So these little green spots out in these dry ecosystems, those like tiny little wet meadows are super important for sage grouse, especially when they have their chicks. And those chicks need to be eating those green groceries, those bugs, those leafy plants. But kind of as they talk about the sage grouse chicks as having to run the gauntlet, either, a fire is going to burn them up, either raptors are going to take them out because they're sitting in these trees, or these wet meadows that maybe have been degraded or dried up because of land management practices that have changed. These chicks, these little 4-inch tall puffballs have a major gauntlet they have to run.
Yeah. And I think, us in the bird dog community, when we're out training dogs right now, getting ready for season, be aware, and we're a little bit beyond that now, but, a month ago, let's not be running our dogs on these young birds and pressuring them and putting more harm on them than they need right now that they're already working so hard to try to get through. Because I think of a lot of these dog trainers coming up to the Dakotas and Montana and doing their summer camps and training on all these wild birds, but these are all little baby birds, and it's so much pressure.
Yeah, you want those broods of game birds to have every opportunity possible to grow up, to then be a hunted species once being able to hunt them, and then also having kind of those populations left to reproduce and do good things for the next year's population. Right. So yeah, these birds, you think of between weather and talking to landowners out in eastern Montana, they're like, oh, we had a hailstorm in June. It's like, well, I might not go hunt out there, in that specific area. And so between the weather, between, the pressure that they receive from people, maybe you had a really dry spring and those bugs and those green plants didn't grow up that they really need. Right. They have a rough time.
So, what's your take on that for this year? So I'm thinking, somebody that's never been sage grouse hunting before, that's definitely on my list of wants, and just because I can, living in Montana, right? We can, but it doesn't mean that we should. And you just mentioned a couple other factors there of just what happened last year. And should we really be actively trying to put a sage grouse hunt on the agenda?
Yeah, so the state game and fish agencies that are in charge of setting seasonal regulations, they go out every spring and they do lek counts. So they go out to these places where sage grouse do their mating dances, and they count males on those leks. And they record those, and then they report those throughout the state. So then the state gets that, that bird report, that lek count report, and they be like, all right, how does this compare to last year? How does this compare to the 10-year trend? And so agencies, are spending a ton of time and energy, tracking what our bird populations are doing. And sage grouse is very highly tracked right now. And so they are determining, can we hunt birds this year? And Montana numbers, we're doing pretty good. So okay. Montana has one of the most liberal sage grouse hunting seasons. We can hunt through the entire month of September. Other states like Oregon, it's a permit system. You have to apply for a sage grouse permit, and they have very small hunting districts. And once certain districts, hit a capita, they might shut down the season. I don't know if that's exactly how Oregon is doing it this year. Yeah. Or some states can be like, our numbers are down, we're not having a season. Okay. So they are, the state game and fish agencies, they are hyper managing, these numbers, and, hunters with our hunter dollars paying these game and fish agencies to also do habitat conservation, to keep hunting a part of it is also really important, because we keep this passion and this energy around the conservation of this bird. And if we can hunt these birds, we are going to advocate for its conservation so we can continue to do so.
Yeah, that's a great perspective, great way to look at that. Yeah. But you had mentioned earlier, first of all, if anybody wants to see the sage grouse mating dance, attend our virtual course. Hannah does it live.
It's beautiful.
And if we're going to have a live Q&A session too. So that'll be fun. That'll be another 30 minutes that Hannah can show us more game bird species mating dances. But, with the sage grouse, I mean, is there an initiative that we can support them? Is there a sage grouse habitat conservation group that we can be a part of?
So there is a group called the Sage Grouse Initiative, and they are a program of the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Okay.
So the NRCS, which is a federal agency that works with private landowners to do voluntary, proactive habitat conservation on private lands. My partnership with the Intermountain West Joint Venture, we're partnered with the Bureau of Land Management to be doing voluntary, proactive sagebrush conservation on public lands. So kind of our two agencies trying to hit the public and the private lands. We're working together, but we're also federal, so we don't, advocate or seek funding from the public. But one of our number one partners working with us and also hosting a number of field biologist positions in the West is Pheasants Forever. Okay. Pheasants Forever is a huge supporter of Western conservation, and often people ask, well, Pheasants Forever, don't they only focus on or don't they only focus on pheasant, which is a non-native species? It's like, no, they focus on habitat, and they are a huge player in Western bird habitat conservation, especially for sagebrush. So if you do want to support an entity, somebody like Pheasants Forever that are doing the habitat conservation, they are an excellent group to put your money behind.
Awesome. What about the sagebrush habitat in general? What can we as hunters, as bird dog enthusiasts, what can we do to help with that? Is there anything?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I suggest people to do if you want to protect the sagebrush sea is do not spread invasive weeds. So we're out and about in this country all the time. Hunters and anglers, we are a huge vector for potentially moving invasive species around the landscape. So when you're talking about invasive annual grasses, there's those niches in your boots that seeds collect. There's it can stick in your pants, it can stick in your dog, it gets under your truck. Just trying not to move those invasive seeds around is super, super important. So, pick them off your dog. Put those in don't just pick them off and lay them on the ground. Put them in a trash bag and transport them, pack out your trash, pack out those seeds. Or if you aren't kind of in a place where it's super easy to pack out all that, burn them completely and consistently in your campfire. But also kind of without, and you can also like take your truck through the car wash, get that adventure mobile all cleaned up and make sure to have it like that undercarriage blasted out, because that's where seeds collect. They can move, but also that's where seeds can ignite and they can start some of those fires. So, dragging trailer chains, make sure you're tying those up, being really careful. Like, we're bouncing along, getting really excited. We see some nice habitat, we pull over, that hot undercarriage of your vehicle can easily spark a fire with those tinder dry invasive grasses or any grasses really. So really making sure you're being careful there. And also like if you do start a fire, just being prepared, just being responsible sportsmen and women, having a shovel and water in your vehicle to be able to put that clean out. If you're seeing a smoke, make sure you report it, but also keeping your buddies responsible. I can't tell you how many times I've peeked at someone's boots and held out the trash bag to make sure that and just keeping your friends responsible, because, peer to peer, guilt can go a long ways when making sure we try to keep these habitats healthy. And also if you burn up your buddy's favorite hunting spot, they will never forgive you.
Right. Now, this is great stuff to learn because I've never heard it before. And, the more we continue to be more aware of stuff like that and teach the rest of our hunting party or hunting friends that we're out with to do the same, it kind of becomes a norm and a great habit that we can all add to our list of things to do before we leave somewhere.
Exactly.
What about, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on with with the sagebrush that I might have been missing.
Yeah, if you're interested in learning more, partnersinthesage.com is the kind of the site where I house all my communications work. We've got feature stories on there. We've got story maps. We've got some really fun videos that we've actually been investing a lot into to kind of depicting this ecosystem and how unique and important it is for us to take care of. So check that out.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, I think when you were here maybe a couple months ago, that we didn't have actual cheatgrass on our property. Why is that? Like, how is it in Missoula and it's not like here in this area?
Yeah, I poked around, and, if we look close enough, we might be able to find it. But you kind of here where you are in the Blackfoot, you're a higher elevation.
Okay.
You have a strong moisture regime, so you get lots of rain, you get lots of snow. It gets really cold, and that cheatgrass doesn't like to be drowned out.
Okay.
And so kind of you're in this just like great pocket here, but just because it does love disturbance, just to keep an eye out for it, pull it. If you are seeing bigger chances, work with your local Wheaton County weed district to come get it sprayed, and make sure you're just like if you are having some bare patches, like reseed your natives, and so just keep close eyes on that, because if we jump over the river to where we plan on doing some hunting in a couple weeks, it is
over there.
here. Yeah.
Okay. So it's on its way.
Yep.
So when we're burning, like in the yard, just be aware, watch for it for when it's coming, if it comes back in.
Yep.
Okay.
Check, see what it's coming back in. Maybe put out some native seed.
Yep.
Just keep vigilant on it.
Okay. All right. Thanks. I'm always interested to know what things can be done to help or improve, and
And burning, sagebrush country, it takes so much time to get back, but fire is a super important part of this landscape, and particularly in the Blackfoot Valley here. You've got amazing conifer forests, and so like fire is a huge part of this landscape. So burning it, and kind of prescribed burning is important. So the trees need it, but we've got it's a tricky balance of where is fire good and where is fire bad.
Right. Yeah, because homeowners insurance isn't awesome here either.
Yeah.
Wait, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, awful. So yeah, there's gives and takes. So let's talk a little bit about. So you had mentioned our little hunt that we're going to have. So we are going to have a grouse hunt. Talk a little bit about that, because I got the email the other day. And it's the first time I've ever been invited to something where it's like the only part of bold print was, by the way, this is like the most grizzly bears per square whatever than like anywhere in the world, or I don't know. You put it really nicely.
Yeah.
But it basically like bring your bear spray, keep everything in your truck, and to be fair, I'm really excited about it because it's completely different than any hunt I've ever done before. I'm used to going on a hunt, going back to the house, or going back to the grouse cabin. And I mean, you and these girls that we're going to be on with are like, yeah, we're going to be pooping in buckets.
Yes, we are. So,
and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, is there not like a restaurant or a gas station right down the road?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
I mean, I've heard the stories, like when I'm listening to these girls on the Big Game podcast and they're talking about pooping in holes.
Yep.
Like, well, we get a bucket. We're like first class.
Oh yeah, we're living fancy. Yeah, so we're going to be doing a women's grouse camp, and I've invited 7 women who I love and want to hunt with, of all different experiences. We'll have some really new grouse hunters, and we'll have some like ladies who've been doing it for decades, and with some dogs that they've been doing it for decades with, and so yeah, there's just all these like camps of lore that you hear about, the Michigan grouse camp or the Montana man's elk camp, and but so it's like I want to do a women's grouse camp, like just or get us together, learn from each other, and also it's bird season. Unlike big game, we're not going to be out from pre-dawn till post-dusk. Like, we'll have some camp time to share those stories and rest the dogs and talk. And but, we're doing it in the Blackfoot Valley. And, the game range, the Blackfoot Clearwater game range isn't going to be too far from where I'm hoping we can have our camp. And, the game range has a lot of grizzly bears. And, I was thinking, like, we're not going to place camp on the game range. Like, we're going to be a little ways away, but...
like, what's a little ways away?
Probably as a crow flies, like, 10 miles.
Okay.
So, the likelihood of grizzly, definitely black bear being very close to where we are hunting is high. So I had a kind of a bolded threat in the email that I sent out to everyone who's coming to camp. Like, you have to carry your bear spray. Like, I do not want to be the camp that ends up, having a problem bear come in and mess with a cooler or, and just, if you also want to carry a sidearm, that's a great number 2 backup, but, you're going to be the most accurate with that bear spray. And but the primary thing about the toilet is also, I don't want my dog going and digging around someone's scat hole. So we're going to do the bucket system, and I can lock the bucket in the vehicle at night. So I just don't want to deal with my dogs playing with poo.
Oh, girl,
that's why the bucket system's
I hear ya. I mean, talk about potty training the 2-year-old right now, and there's scat all around the yard, and the dog. No. Like, I just can't. So I'm all for the bucket. Yeah, because my dogs would be there too, and I know what they look for now. So, this is awful. But no, I'm excited to have that experience and do something different. And the packing out and packing in concept. It's this whole living in Montana thing is really opening up my eyes to it. So I'm excited for the opportunity. What about, so there's going to be 8 total, and how many dogs do you think are going to be there? There's some gals who are coming that won't have dogs. Okay. But we'll potentially have 3 Griffs, including mine. We'll have my Pudelpointer. A gal is bringing her small Munsterlander. It'll be the dog's also the first hunting season, so she and I'll have the rodeo with our puppies. Yeah. And then I'm not sure what you're bringing. I know.
Do you know? Maybe you don't know yet?
I'm sure I'll bring a Bronco and a Wirehair. I'll probably just keep it at 2. And
Bronco, Wirehair. And then maybe a gal will bring her yellow lab. So 8 ladies, 8 dogs.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of, are we going to like go out in groups of 2, or what do you kind of mentioned that earlier on? Because it's like, you and I have talked before, like, oh, I really like to just kind of hunt myself. But I mean, I think this is a great opportunity for not only the novice people, but also the experience. And for me, that I've only been here for one short season, to kind of see how others are getting into it. So we're going to be going out in groups of 2.
Yeah, I think the buddy system is probably good, just in case, because, we'll be, we can walk until we drop with public lands. Yeah. So we'll have so much country to cover. We can send people in different directions. If we do the buddy system, if, you roll your ankle or break it, or, something happens with the dog, having a friend there to help you out is always great. But then there's also that, like, peer-to-peer mentorship component. And like my sister-in-law is hopefully going to come, and she's really new to bird hunting. Awesome. And so she's bird hunted with me, but I want her to see how other people do it, because she wasn't raised in a family that hunted. And, I've definitely crafted how her experiences has been. So, but I want her to also see how other ladies get it done.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a great learning opportunity, and even pulling out our Onyx maps and looking at that different kinds of cover and where we should be splitting up and going. It's all going to be a great learning experience. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about it. You're also so you talked earlier about that you're a big game hunter. So you've hunted antelope and deer, mule deer. What else am I missing?
Yeah, mule deer, whitetail. I've also carried a gun for bear hunting, and I've carried a gun for elk, neither of which I've been successful on. I do have a permit this year where in this place where I do want to elk hunt, I can shoot either a bull brow-tine bull or a cow. Okay. So hopefully there'll be some elk meat in the house. But we did really good last year. Both my husband and I each got a buck and a doe. So we had 4 deer, and we're sitting pretty with meat. And between all the birds and the fish, we had a full freezer. And so hoping to do it again this year.
Gosh, you probably didn't have to buy like hardly anything for meat then through the year, have you?
No, we don't buy domestic meat. The only thing we do buy is pork every once in a while. A little bit of bacon is nice.
Yeah. What's your favorite big game meat?
I love deer. I love straight up venison. I know how to cook it well. It does have a unique flavor. Your previous one of your previous guests was talking about elk meat, and elk is just, it's a fine, it's a clean, it's a light meat. It is the king. It's the most lean meat you have. But I do really love deer. Just the cuts, the sizes, the way it cooks. It's my favorite thing, and also it's what I've been eating for the past 12 plus months purely.
Sure.
So
yeah.
It's high on my horse right now.
What's your favorite way to prepare it? If I was a first time venison eater, how should I make it? That would be the best recipe.
Yeah, was said before, a straight steak.
Okay.
Let it come to room temperature, salt and pepper, sear it on both sides until it's cooked through, and you can cheat. You can cut a little bit and see if it's cooked through to what you're comfortable with. I believe the more rare, the better. You don't want it to totally neigh at you when you're cutting it, but fairly rare is great with venison. And then take it off the grill. Or your cast iron, however you're doing it, set it on your cutting board, put a little patch of butter on it and cover it with tinfoil and let it rest for 10 minutes and then eat your steak. If you want the pureness of what venison can be, that is king. But I also love a fall stew where I, take meat, cut it up into cubes, salt, pepper it, flour it, brown it in a pan, put it in there with a bunch of red wine and whatever veggies are happening at that time. Getting into fall, we're starting to get into some of our root vegetables.
Right.
Our tomatoes are coming in, zucchini, but then later your turnips and your carrots and your potatoes and your beets. Let that go for 3 hours until that meat just shreds apart. That's pretty awesome. It's been a little too hot for stew, but I'm ready for stew
it's
season.
coming though. It's right around the corner.
Yep.
That's for sure. Last weekend at the women's event, you mentioned to me deer tongue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell me about that. How you that was one of your favorite things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just tongue in general has been something that in domestic animals we've been eating for a long time. I can go down to my local rancher and say, "Hey, Bart, at the Oxbow Cattle Company, I need a cow tongue. Can you hook me up?" And so with big game, it's the same. It's just a little smaller. Unless maybe you have a bison. But tongue has this exterior on it where the way we cook our tongue, at least, is we leave that exterior on. We try to take it out of the critter as soon as possible because after you've killed an animal, they seize up, they freeze up a little, and so we try to get that tongue out. You can take it out from the bottom jaw as well, where right under your chin it's nice and soft. You can take your tongue out that way.
Okay.
And so we give it a little scrub to get any vegetation that maybe was in the mouth when the animal died, and we freeze that. But when we're ready, we de-thaw it, and then we put that tongue in boiling water for a good while.
Okay.
Until there's an exterior coat on that tongue to peel off. You peel it off and you get this interior, skinny, kind of oblong piece of meat. And then the way we like to do that is we cut little medallions, thin, 1/4-inch medallions, fry that up in some butter, and have that on a cracker with whatever. It is fabulous.
So is it like a soft meat?
It's extremely soft. It's a really unique texture that I don't think you get in any other muscle group of an animal. Yeah.
I would have never
thought
of that.
Your face is funny right now,
but
it's good.
I'm no joke. Do I look green? Because for a second I thought I needed to run to the restroom. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I'm interested at the same time. Every part of me is going,
whoa.
Oh man, because once you get to know me more, you're gonna learn how my palate's not amazing at all.
Yeah, I want to feed it to you without you seeing the process because it is strange. It's just not what we're used to. But I want to give you the cracker and say, "Okay, Courtney, here's tongue. It's quite good.
I mean, maybe you should just give me the cracker and say, here's meat.
Yeah.
Like, don't say, here's tongue.
Okay. I'll do a couple different ways, different crackers. Which one do you like?
Maybe, although now I'm not going to trust you with the cracker.
I'll get you at some point. I'll put in a taco.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking, maybe not.
Well, we've helped friends pack out, like my husband helped our real good friend Zach pack out his cow elk last year.
Okay.
And our friend Zach is like, take whatever cut you want.
Yeah.
And my husband's like, I'll take the heart and I'll take the tongue. And so that's, for the extremely laborious pack out that was between the two of them. That's what we chose.
That's funny. So do you eat snipe?
I have eaten a snipe.
Okay.
One. We don't.
What about woodcock?
No woodcock.
Because you haven't been there. Okay. So how did you make your snipe? And did you like it?
Yes, it was delicious.
Oh,
dark meat, right? We eat a lot of waterfowl, so we're kind of, if it was like, some people call it a muddy taste. I don't quite think of that. I just, kind of lightly seared. I think we had a little balsamic on it.
Really? Mm-hmm. And it was delicious. Mm-hmm. Do you like liver though?
I don't not like liver, but it's not like what we do with our liver, because we try to keep everything of the animal. We take the liver, we cut it into little silver dollar size pieces, and we dehydrate it, and those are our dog treats throughout the season. If you've got an elk liver, that is like epic amounts of dog treats. We've actually given some to our friend who has celiac disease. And because most dog treats are grain based, have gluten in them. Those have been great treats that he said his dog really likes.
Yeah, that's perfect. Wow. I'm going to learn so much from you. I'm not going to trust you making me food all the time now. So, when we had you guys over for prime rib, that was probably, the first time that you've had that in
last time I had it was, a work trip years ago.
Right.
And, but so when somebody does cook meat for that, it is, ultimate delicacy because it's so special. Yeah. And you saw us walk out of there with, the meat sweats.
The meat sweats. Oh, that's awesome. It's it's a goal for us we're going to give big game hunting a try this year. And with the family, it's something that we really want to get into, and so all this different ways to prep food and which we should be eating is very intriguing to me because I want to try it. Yeah. Never would I have imagined the tongue. Yeah. I haven't, but I trust your opinion and the way you prepare it, and if I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna try it from you instead of having my husband do it after he listens to this podcast. Because he loves to cook. He is the chef between us. But I know... I'll let you do it. Good. So what kind of, besides the grouse hunt, what other hunts are you planning for this year? Yeah. And the elk that you mentioned.
Yeah, so for opener, I'll be chasing opener of rifle. I'll be chasing elk for that, and maybe we'll see kind of how the season folds out, and also it'll depend on my husband is an archery hunter and kind of what his season is like. Because if we both have an elk, we're gonna need a new freezer, right? So we'll try to monitor how that goes. But we also have 1 week in November in eastern Montana booked out, where we're planning on, we both drew antelope tags out east, and then we'll have our over-the-counter deer tags as well. We didn't put in for anything specific out there, but, beautiful Montana over-the-counter tags. Yeah. And so that'll be mule deer country. And, just hoping to fill up the freezer. And then also, we have family that don't hunt or are just getting into hunting, so we share meat with them and coworkers. Awesome. So we often have plenty to share. Yeah. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself for this season.
Right. So how do you balance it out between upland hunting and big game hunting? What's your plan to do that this year?
Yeah, and so I did kind of start to try to get into archery, but, as the bird dogs came into my life, I've been sorry, archery season, September and early October are for the dogs.
Okay.
And so it works out great for my husband because he can disappear with his pack-in camps up in the mountains, and, I've got full dog duty, and it's a great way to, like, split that up.
Yeah.
But then as we start to get into the rifle season, when I pick up that gun, it becomes a little bit of a dance between him taking the dogs and maybe going waterfowling that day while I go out and deer hunt in the mountains. Or this year, what we're planning for our Eastern Montana trip is taking both the dogs and doing kind of that dance, but maybe I'll go with them and hunt pheasant and sharptail one day while he goes and looks for his mule deer and his antelope. And then the next day, switch. I go pick up the rifle and he picks up the shotgun.
Yeah.
We've just got kind of a camp spot picked out where we can hunt straight from camp, and we'll be in one vehicle, so that'll be a little bit of a dance, but all public lands, DIY, kind of figuring it out. So we've got a full work week off plus our weekends. So that'll be pretty epic.
You guys have it all planned out. It sounds very exciting. And I'm thinking, like, when you're talking about I'm gonna have the dogs, he's gonna do this, I'm in my mind, in my world, I'm like, well, he's going to have the kids, and then I get to go here, and then, like, I already, on September 1st, I have on our calendar William to babysit all day long.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, for real, we do put the backpack on. We do take the kids with, but there are those moments, where we do switch off and we'll go separately, because there's just nothing like getting away, being out in the wilderness by yourself, quiet, hunting with your dog, just enjoying your dog, and quiet being the key word is the big difference between bringing kids with and not, is quiet.
You have a whole, like, level of complexity, but I think also how, they motivate you, and it's not my department, but and it just, when I see, your kiddos out with you, like, it is spectacular.
Yeah,
like, that's cool.
Yeah, they do really well. Brooke's been out scouting grouse with me, and he enjoys it until about 5 hours into it, and then the legs start hurting type of thing, but he does good, and he enjoys as much as I do. And
5 hours in, my legs are hurting too.
Right. But he'll hear the grouse come up, and he'll say, "Mom, did you hear that?" So I love that. I love that he's just excited about those flushes as I am.
Yeah.
So it's good. And I go, "Did Angus point it?" I don't know. Okay. So now he's going to start looking to see if the dogs are pointing it when he hears that sound.
Good.
So it's fun. So let's talk about gear, because that's one of my favorite topics with lady talk is talking gear. So what rifle do you use?
Yeah, I have a Tikka 308. And it is, so I learned to hunt with Ruger number 1 243. So that's I believe it was probably cut down for me at one point.
Okay.
And it's a lever action, so a single shot. It's a very heavy gun, but it's great because those heavier guns absorb all the recoil. So, I shot, my antelope and multiple deer with that gun. But then, as an adult with a job, and, I purchased a couple years ago, my first not hand-me-down rifle, and that was this Tikka 308, and it's fairly light, so it does have a little bit of a kick, but it's comfortable. It felt good. I did research to it prior on, and I hunt with a bipod. So it attaches to the front of my gun. So if I'm going to take a seated or a prone shot, it gets me elevated above the grasses.
Okay.
And then one of my favorite aspects of my gun setup is I have what's called a gun bearer. And so it is a kind of a cup or a sling that attaches to my hip belt on my pack. And so I can put the butt of the gun in that. And then it has a Velcro wrap on my shoulder. And so I can be hands-free. Walking, getting over a fence, pushing back brush, and then when I have an opportunity, it's a quick fold down. But it also it isn't this awkward thing slung over my shoulder. So I really recommend the gun bearer.
Okay. Where do we find one of those at?
I can give you a link that maybe you can put in the podcast.
Yeah.
I can't remember the maker of it, but yeah, it's I had a gal who I had mentored, and she contacted me this year. She's like, I want to buy a pack that has, that thing in it that you had, that gun bear. And I was like, no, it's not a pack. It is a $30 attachment that you can put on any pack.
Right. Yeah. And pack talk. So, and I went over mine and your discussion on packs with Callie on last week's episode. But yeah, that's something I'm still looking into getting. But what pack do you use? What size? Because you just got the new one.
Yeah, I got a new one. It's a Seek pack, and so like Kelly was saying, some packs talk in liters, some packs talk in cubic inches. Well, the one I have, it's an external frame pack, and so there is like a bag that you can attach to it, but what it's meant to do is hold quarters. So it has like a shelf, a load-bearing shelf that folds out that you can put quarters on, and it just holds the pack holds its own frame, so it's not kind of, collapsing and squishing on you for when you're packing out that really heavy meat load, that it just holds it as good as possible. And for some of us, like the bag that I could put on it, I could put my weight into that bag.
Oh, wow.
At 130 pounds, I can't put that much in there.
Right.
And so it's like, that pack can take way more than what I can carry, but it's got a really thick, nice hip belt system.
Okay.
It was extremely adjustable, where I could, shift where it sits on the hip belt up and down. It has all these fancy tie downs. I got that pack when I got my life membership to Backcountry Hunters and Anglers.
Oh, okay.
Because, Seek is an awesome Colorado-based company. So that was like my item that came with my life membership. So that's why I did the upgrade. But previous to it, I was hiking with a 35-liter Deuter, kind of as Callie described it, as like a one-night pack. I can carry like one night's worth of gear in that. But, for day trips, for day hunting where, I'm car camping, coming back to a car, that was really great. I could fit a quarter to a half of a deer in that pack.
How much would that weigh? How much is half of a deer weigh, approximately, that you're carrying out?
Yeah, all sorts of deer are different. So like your does are much smaller than your bucks. I was on a hunt with a gal, and we got her on her first buck, and it was one of the biggest deer that and we packed that, most of the way out. A friend actually hiked in to help us, and we about broke ourselves trying to get that deer out in one load. But she also took the brunt of it because she had the head and she was carrying the gun. But so 50 pounds bone in. So some people, like especially backcountry hunters, will bone out their deer, so they cut actually the bones out of the quarters. I do like to leave my bone in. I'm not doing super extreme deep backcountry hunts. I'm doing what I call side country hunts. And so it's heavier because you have the bone in, but then you can do different cuts with the meat, bone in cuts. I can take off my muscle groups in the way I like when I'm doing my own processing afterwards.
Yeah, because I was just going to ask you, what would be the advantage of keeping bone in? So it's the different cuts that you prefer.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. So I would say, half a deer, 50 to 70 pounds of meat bone in.
Okay. I mean, that's a pretty good weight load.
Yep. Yeah, and if you, it depends on the terrain, if you're not on trail, the terrain that you have to get through to come back, and you don't want to blow a knee while you're coming out. So.
And I think of so many places in Montana, we don't even have cell phone reception, so it's not like you can call somebody to come help you. Yep,
exactly.
Well, that makes things interesting.
Yes.
I'm really excited for that experience. Oh my gosh. I just love you badass ladies that are just like getting after it. I strive real hard to want to do that one day, but it's, there's got to be a lot of passion there.
It'll be a good season.
What about shotgun? What do you use for a shotgun?
I carry a Benelli Montefeltro. I call her Miss Benelli, but, she's also a gun that I've been shooting. I got my dog and my gun around the same time. So some of the biggest purchases in my life at that time.
Yeah.
And it is a gun that I have adapted to fit me. I had it cut down, and I've looked into doing some other modifications on it, like having the stock rebuilt, but I've learned how to work with that gun. She's a bit of a Frankenstein, just the nicks and the scratches, and I have electrical tape around the butt right now.
The memories.
Oh, I tried to redo the butt pad, but because the stock was cut down for me, standard butt pads don't fit it. And so it's electrical tape together right now because I've torn a little bit of the rubber there. So,
Girl, we need to get you a new gun.
I will upgrade. But I'm also, this year I did a lot of, I sought out some training for the first time and some instruction on shotgunning and wing shooting. And so I am shooting that gun really well right now. So I thought about, doing some of these modifications over the summer, but it's working and I don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
Next
Are you
year.
shooting, is that 12 or 20?
It's a 12.
It's a 12.
And it's my all-around gun as far as, I shoot super light loads for grouse, and then get a little heavier for my pheasant. And then, and then go into waterfowl loads. I use the same gun through all seasons.
And you're using steel for everything, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
When I'm not shooting at the range, I'm using steel for everything just because I found it easier to, if I'm shooting steel for waterfowl, that shot patterns and is in a certain way, which is different to lead. And so, I've just transferred to everything that way. I know, there isn't the deliberation of the boxes, or I've done hunts on the Milk and the Missouri River where I'm pheasant hunting, but the river's right there, and especially early season, there's wood duck and teal and, some of my favorite duck species.
Right.
So rather than jiggy around and change out my shot, I know I'm good to go. My pheasant loads might be a little bit heavy for those smaller duck species, but a bird in hand is something I'm going to eat. So.
Yeah.
And the dog, that's the beauty of also versatile dogs is, that dog will swim for that duck.
Absolutely.
As well as and chase that pheasant.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing where you can be doing both on the same day for sure. What about your favorite go-to apparel? What's something that you take out? Let's talk bird hunting for the sake of our audience here. What's something that is a necessity for you every time?
Yeah, it's not too different. Kind of, I wear the same things, just different layers. Often when you're upland hunting, you're moving faster and you're maybe putting out more body heat than when you're, stalking around the western Montana mountains, big game hunting. But I love my First Light guide pant. It is a light material that I wear. I'll be wearing it, in a little over a week from now when we start grouse hunting. And then in the big game season, I will put long johns under that when I'm hotter. Top layers, merino wool. I always like to wear long sleeve. Kind of early season, I'll wear the same shirts I wear fly fishing, just button up, get my arms covered for when I'm beating the brush and whatnot. Boots are super important. The fastest way to ruin your day is getting a big old blister.
Right.
So really having a well-broken pair of boots. I wear Zamberlin.
Okay.
And that's just a leather Gore-Tex 8-inch tall boot. It's not that, way up your shin hunting boot style, but it's broken. It fits my foot. I've got a skinny foot. And that just fits me really well, and it's I've tried a lot when it comes to hunting boots.
And you use the same for upland boot that you do use Zamberlins for big game as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How long have you had those?
My current pair, I think this will be my 4th season on them.
Okay.
And there is a little bit, I don't know if you noticed when I wore them the other day at the XL Shooting Sports, there's a little bit of shoe goo keeping the tongue on it.
Is there?
So this will probably be the last season. But I treat them, I scrub them down, and then I do a Nix Wax.
Okay.
A shoe conditioner on that to keep them waterproof because, especially hiking with them in the summer and the early fall, that leather just gets so dry.
Yeah.
And just taking care of that leather and that tongue to keep it waterproof. So when we are getting, some of the winter rains or the early snows, that you don't have wet feet right away.
Okay.
Just taking care of that leather. And it's probably the piece of gear, maybe besides my gun and my dog, I take care of my boots pretty well.
Okay. So you're going to be getting that same pair when these guys wear out?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I have had a problem. I did gymnastics and swimming in school, and so my ankles are very flexible. And so when I roll my ankle, like last year, I rolled my ankle so bad, Christmas Day, it ended my upland hunting season. Swelled up super, super bad, and it's taken, until now, months and months of PT and exercising to try to strengthen it back up. I am curious, we both have some of those tall leather boots.
Yeah.
I don't think my ankle could roll in those.
Right.
And so I'm looking to get that into my routine.
Yeah.
But,
I'm excited to use those for some upland, not so much climbing mountains by any means, but yeah, I think for upland they're going to be ace.
Yep.
I really do, because I have weak ankles as well.
Yep.
So, no, I agree. I love those boots. Do you have them broken much yet?
Yep, I think I have them broken.
Okay.
Plan on wearing them out in the field for the first couple. And I'm really looking for it later in the season, too, because, they're tall leather. You get kind of sweaty feet in there, but kind of later in the season. Yeah. That'll be really fun.
What kind of sock are you going to wear with them? Early season.
I like Darn Toughs socks. They're a merino wool sock, and they're very similar to Smart Wool. But what's really nice about Darn Tough socks is they have a lifetime warranty. So if you blow a hole, into those socks, they will replace them. Okay. Which, as we're getting into gear that, you've talked about it with the shotguns. Yeah. The pit stops that you can have on certain guns, companies that, they're a pricier product, but they believe in them to the point that my fly rod, I snapped that baby in half this summer, and thank goodness Winston Rods has a lifetime warranty on that level of rod, because when they take care of them, that's really important for gear.
Yeah, I absolutely appreciate that. Like, the paying a little bit more for the quality and that customer service means a ton.
Yep. That being said, we all started with the basic gear, and to get into it, we are at a level in our hunting careers where we're looking for that lifetime quality on things, but you don't have to have that.
Oh no. Yeah, when I first got into upland, it was whatever was on sale in the Fleet Farm rack. I mean, really, it was, because you don't know if you're going to enjoy it, if it's going to be your hobby and that you want to put money into it. And I look at, it's the same thing I look at with fly fishing. I'd really love to do it, but to get the rod, to get everything, it costs a lot of money to start it up.
Totally.
So yeah, we found some fly rods at a garage sale, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to see if we're going to get into it much more before we go all out. But
I'm when I started fly fishing, I have the most basic model that Orvis makes, and that's what I'm fishing right now, because my fancy boron is at the shop, and I might not see it for a while.
Are you catching fish with it?
Oh yeah.
Oh good.
Oh yeah.
So it all does the job. It's just a matter of how much you want to elevate your game, right?
Yep, exactly.
If you're getting into it more. Okay, my favorite question. Ooh. Hannah, what's in your vest?
What's in my vest?
When you go upland hunting, what all do you have in your vest?
Yeah.
In your new beautiful vest.
Yes.
You just won last weekend.
I have a new vest. It's, from Hound and Hare, and it is so pretty, and I'm really excited to hunt with that. But like for our grouse camp, I always have a holster for my bear spray attached to my vest. So bear spray, when you're hunting in western Montana, and our bears are expanding their populations, so I pretty much always have bear spray. Water, super important, especially when you're running multiple dogs. Early season when we're chasing dusky grouse, just out scouting, my dogs will drain 4 liters off of me super fast. So I really love the platypus version, or the platypus, or it's just that hydration bladder.
Okay.
Platypus is just one of the brands. I always carry a bowl to put my dog's water in, because if I have just squirted water at them out of my pack, and they lose a lot of water that way, and my Griff loves to aspirate it back up.
Oh no.
So I like that bowl so they can maximize that water, because we may run out, and when we're running out, we're heading back to the truck. Leatherman porcupine quills, making sure I always have that tool. I've never had to use them on my dogs. yet.
Wood. There you go.
Wood,
So glad
but,
to see.
I was out with, a hunting buddy, and we were full out laying on that lab to get those porcupine quills out of his face. And first aid kits for both me and the dogs. That I've got a bulky one, keep a bigger one in the truck, and then a field one that goes in the pack. Food, snacks, for definitely myself, and my dogs know that sound when I open that cheese stick.
Yeah.
Oh, that is money. That gets us both back in the game.
Is that your go-to snack pack?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I love cheese sticks. We make some of our own, like Cliff Bar, like granola bars. Hank Shaw has a great granola, or a great like protein bar recipe.
Okay.
All the different chokes and shells. I'm really big into ear protection, so I have some electronic ones that I've tinkered with, but still my go-to is just some orange plugs to have in my ears. There's always a couple, half dozen floating around my vest somewhere, just because I'm going for multiple days. Carry some wipies in case you gotta do some business in the woods.
Yeah. Good for mentioning that. That's been a miss, but not many are going for as long as you're going out all day and a couple days at a time. So yeah. Yep.
Snacks. That's probably kind of what's always, and kind of based on the terrain, we might have something different in there, but that's about what's in the pack.
That's awesome. What about your favorite sage grouse recipe? What do you have for that? Because that's your favorite bird. Yeah.
So, my favorite, it's a little fancy, but a sous vide machine is an electronic tool you can put in a pot of water that circulates the water and keeps it at a constant temperature. Oh. So we like to take our sage grouse, like the legs, they're so small, we keep the legs, but that might go in with our duck leg recipe. But the breasts, that big, beautiful piece of dark bird meat.
Yeah.
We will put those into a vacuum sealable bag, with some maybe like culinary sage from our garden, maybe a little oil, probably a little acid, like a red wine vinegar in there, salt and pepper. Put that into the sous vide machine and let that slowly cook that breast. And what a sous vide does is it keeps your meat incredibly, incredibly tender. Huh. And, just that sage grouse, it's a big bird, it can fly a surprising distance.
Right.
Like that is a very dark, strong piece of meat.
Okay.
So sous videing it in the machine, putting it on like a crispy, thin cut piece of bread, with maybe a piece of fried culinary sage and brie. That
good.
And I love, like, you can't eat native, like wild sagebrush. It doesn't taste very good.
Okay.
Probably not very good for you.
Okay.
But trying to take like that culinary sage and match it with what the bird was, he's eating that. I thought that was pretty fun.
That's very clever.
Yeah.
How do you spell sous vide when I go searching for that?
So it's 2 words. I believe it's S-O-U-S, sous, second word, vide. V-I-D-E. Don't quote me on that. Yes, I'm a communication specialist, but it's French.
Sous vide.
Yep.
Okay. Now, because I've seen the sous before. Sous chef, right? Sous vide. Ooh, that's gosh, I'm going to up my game this year and having all these extra special things.
Oh, there's no end to the extra doodads. Like, the rage right now is Instapot, and to pressure cook like those shank tacos you had at the XL Shooting Sports event. That was pressure cooked, just in my standard pressure cooker. But my next tool might be an Instapot for pressure cooking some of that game down. That can be really good.
Yeah, no, I love those Instapots, especially when it's like 4:00 in the afternoon. I go, oh shoot, what are we having for dinner tonight?
Yep.
I just throw a couple frozen chicken breasts in there and voila.
Yep. Same with pheasant.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Good. Okay. What kind of advice do you have for first timers? What's the best piece that you can give to somebody if they're considering going out this year?
Yeah, so if we're big game hunting, groups like Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, they have an R3. So R3 is Retention, Recruitment, and Reactivation. They have some incredible programs that they're putting together. Hunt for Sustainability is one of their big programs, to bring kind of, they're focused on college students, but also working into those adult onset hunters, like groups like those, to find like-minded people are really incredible. So there's like entities you can find to work to learn, but researching YouTube is an amazing, type in the type of hunt you want to do and kind of watch how people are doing it. But also just like I've had people who be like, I want to get into hunting. How do I do that? Kind of expecting me to just take everyone out there. Yeah. Hunting takes a degree of, you've used the term a couple times, grit, to like just get out and figure it out and try it. And,
right.
And I just, there are a couple of friends like, okay, well, we're going to go out scouting. We're leaving at 6 a.m., be at this gas station. And the night before you get the text, oh, sorry, something came up. It's like, I might not invite them back again.
Right.
Like, you've just got to have that grit and that gumption to get out and try it.
Yeah.
So, do your research online, find a group. If you do get that invite to go out hunting with someone, take them up on it. Don't pansy out or find a good excuse, because it's hard. Like, hunting is hard.
Yeah.
But that's why we love it, and that's why, we can bring home the food to feed our family and those memories that'll last a lifetime.
Right. Do you think it's better to go out with your gun right away in hopes to do it, or do you think just going along without a gun, watching the process of being with somebody that does it is a better option?
Yeah.
Does it matter?
I think not carrying that gun at the beginning is awesome, because, you carrying that gun is a degree of gravity, is a degree, like, if you don't know how that gun works and its functions, you do not want to put yourself in a situation where you could be dangerous.
Yeah.
So I had an awesome hunt that I did last year where, there was 3 of us, and we were out at this deer camp with a whole bunch of ladies. That was super fun. And, Morgan and I were carrying guns, but we had an observer with us who really wanted to hunt. But she was really concerned about guns, hadn't grown up with them. And so she got to see Morgan and I double down on does. Yeah. And she helped us pack those girls out.
That's awesome.
And it was awesome. And, Morgan and I were excited because, we filled our doe tags. Yeah. But our observer was ecstatic because the fact that she actually got to see a harvest while observing, she, it's like, all right, lifetime hunter there.
Yeah, she'll be back.
Yeah.
No, that's what it's all about too, is it's what it's going to take for them to enjoy it and want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Great experience. How can we find you, connect with you, Hannah, if we have questions of anything you talked today, especially the sagebrush and that piece of it? How can we reach out social media wise?
Yeah. So, I believe I'm Hannah Nikonow, last name Nikonow, and Hannah with an H. Probably be able to find me. Not many Nikonows out there. But then, like, work-wise, if you look at partnersinthesage.com, or we are on Facebook and Instagram at Intermountain West Joint Venture.
Okay.
So if you look that up on those channels, you can find us.
Okay.
So, yeah, if you want kind of hunting pictures and bird doggy stuff, you can find me personally, professionally, for that kind of those resources on Sagebrush. That's my hub.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Well, thanks, Hannah. I appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, this was awesome.
It was awesome.
We're all super excited. Just, the hunting season is so close. So it was cool to get more stoked up about this.
I know. 10 days away, and it's like, ooh. And I'm kind of going between, am I going to be out in the turkey blind in the morning on the 1st and then hit the grouse woods in the afternoon? Because they're both just, there's so many options right now.
So many options. And like we are, true kings and queens in this landscape of public lands, because we have so many opportunities.
It's amazing.
Out here in Montana.
Yeah.
So don't come here. It's horrible. Lots of grizzly
bears.
There
are no birds and a lot of bears.
Big bears.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something from the content, please share it with your friends. Please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on whichever platform you're listening from. Check out the show notes for links to references from this episode, as well as info on how to connect through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you're loving this podcast and want to support the production and content, please consider becoming one of my Patreon patrons. Being a patron connects us more on a personal level, where I'm able to help answer questions and give advice. My husband William and I have bred, owned, and trained AKC Master Hunters, Field Champions, NAVHDA VCs, and AKC Show Champions. We're excited to not only share what we've learned, but also listen from previous and future episode guests for additional content. Go to patreon.com/TheBirdDogBabe and $5 per month and you're in. And as always, 2% goes to conservation. Until next week, bird dog babes, keep them versatile.